It's Vi. We knew it was gonna be Vi. All right. Let's see what she does. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Enforcer on the scene.
Oh, ooh, calm down. Okay, 5 drop. 5 drop, 2-5. Okay, understand it. Challenger and tough. That's expected. While I'm in play or in hand, grant me +1 attack when you play another card, maximum +8. When I strike for 10 or more. Whoa. Whoa, okay, so oh my god, this card can be really good in like the deck that I was just playing right now. So like these spam decks. That's real. Okay, let's see this in action.
I'll wipe that grin off your face permanently. There's the one.
Dude, I love it. I love her. Oh my god, I love her, dude.
Eat this.
Dude, this is actually really good.
It hurts.
When you play a 2-cost card, draw 1 fleeting. Oh.
Yeah.
Vault Breaker. I assume that's her signature spell. Give an ally +2 attack this round. Create a fleeting Vault Breaker in hand. Oh, so it's like a Noxian Guillotine but with attack. Oh shit. Okay.
Headquarters sent a gift. Face meet fist. Coming to save the day.
When I strike a unit while attacking, deal 5 to the enemy nexus, and she's just straight up 10 attack, yo. When she levels up, she's straight up 10 attack. Oh my god. Oh my god, that's so dope.
Or wreck it.
What the fuck, dude? Wow. Wait, what just happened there? Wait, what? Deal 3 to a unit, okay. That's so neat. That's really dope, dude. Hello there, internet. Cardboy Manchild here, coming at you with a reaction, or rather a review of Vi. You guys saw my initial reaction just now. So we're gonna talk about Vi herself and the cards that were revealed alongside them. And I'm gonna give you guys my initial impressions, right? My thoughts regarding what archetypes these cards can fit into, if there will be new archetypes spawning from them, all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's start talking about the champion herself. Vi is a 5-mana 2/5 with challenge and tough. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I think this is fantastic design from a flavor perspective. I think it really fits the character, as I have been looking into the potential Piltover candidates for this reveal, and I learned a lot about Vi, and thus, you know, I know that giving her challenger and tough fits her really, really well. But not only that, her ability is really neat. She's very powerful. I believe she's one of the most powerful champions revealed thus far, and I know because my Twitch chat loves to point this out, that I always say that the new champion is like, oh, the strongest champion revealed so far. First of all, I didn't say that about Maokai. And second of all, I do believe that Vi is one of, if not the most powerful champion. She is vulnerable to recall effects because they basically reset her attack gains if that happens. So cards like Will of Ionia impact her just as hard as they do to the likes of Braum, for example. But barring, you know, cards like that and situations like that, she has a very good initial stat line when you take her ability into consideration, right? She has what is arguably more resilience than the likes of Thresh. So she's a challenger, but you'd rather take 5 health and tough over 6 health for a challenger unit all day. And she has just 1 less attack than Thresh initially, but obviously that does not become the case when you start buffing her with all of your effects. Now, one of the cool things about this is that she can fit a deck that I will be showcasing tomorrow, which is a Piltover spell spam mid-range list with Draven. Basically, you play the likes of Draven and the Sumpsnice Scavenger, the Chump Wump, to generate all these these cheap spells, or potentially free, because the Scavenger and Draven do give you free spells, to chain early on to buff her up so that when she comes down, she has a very strong attack stat and can just basically remove anything. She's a very solid 5 mana play. I think she has a lot of potential in aggro decks, but also in mid-range lists as well. It's going to be really interesting to build around Vi. It's hard to assess what kind of deck will ultimately end up being her home without giving her a shot. But ultimately, she feels like a really, really strong finisher for aggro decks and a really nice mid-game play for more mid-range sorts of builds. When she levels up, she has 10 base attack, which means that Will of Ionia is not really that relevant towards her anymore. And whenever she strikes a unit while attacking, she deals 5 damage to the enemy nexus. Now, one of the cool combos that I'd like to point out is her with the likes of Whirling Death and Single Combat. If you attack with Vi, and then you Whirling Death or Single Combat something, you'll be dealing 5 extra damage to the Nexus as well, which is really neat. And then obviously, her combined with Might is where it's at. I think Vi will definitely have a home with Noxus because of the ability to give her Overwhelm is just absolutely crazy. Might with this card is pretty ridiculous, as we can challenge whoever we want, like the weakest unit, and then get the most amount of damage out there. Just so you guys understand, like imagine they have a 1 health unit. We drag Vi into that, we give her Might. We're dealing 12 damage with the Overwhelm, plus 5 from her striking. So basically 17 damage to the face, which is, as the expert would say, it's a hefty amount of damage. Yeah, it takes a lot of game knowledge to understand that, right? But I like Vi a lot. She's really interesting in that sense. I love the flavor of the design, and I love, her overall power. Some people are scared about her, saying that her having tough is a bit too much, but we'll just have to wait and see. I think she's definitely going to be very competitive, and I can't wait to mess around with her. There's a lot of potential combinations you can run with her, and I feel like she's pretty flexible. Not as flexible as Swain regarding different decks she can fit in, but she's very neat, man. And I honestly exceeded my expectations a little bit, because I was expecting, if it was Vi, I was expecting more of like a straight up like Darius sort of design. She is similar to Darius in certain ways, but she's way more complex at the same time, which I can really appreciate. When it comes to her signature card, Vault Breaker, generally speaking, this is a bad card. Like, it's just how it is. It is kind of like a proactive Nox and Guillotine, but Nox and Guillotine is destroying units. This is giving you +2 attack. It's very low impact, because that way the card itself balances itself out. What I do like, I actually don't like this card as much with Vi as I do like it with the likes of Heimerdinger, right? Because with Heimerdinger, if we're running out of gas, one card can just translate into up to potentially 4 elusive turrets, and also a big attack onto one of the elusive turrets as well, which can be pretty funny, right? It's definitely got some potential there, I think, with Heimerdinger. I'm not so sure about the card otherwise. Like I said, it's very expensive, but if it was 2 mana, it would be borderline broken. So it can't be 2.5 because that value doesn't exist. So it costing 3 mana, you're paying a lot for just a temporary +2 attack boost. Not even aggro decks are super happy about this, I think. And overall, the card is underwhelming, but I think it's fine for it to be underwhelming, because otherwise Vi is already a really strong champion on her own. So in a way, I like how you can balance champions by giving them a more underwhelming signature card. Even though this card is not terrible, it's just not really, it's not where it needs to be like fully competitive, in my opinion. It kind of like falls into the same, line of the likes of Death Lotus from Katarina, for example. I don't think too highly of this card. Maybe I could be wrong. Like, I could be wrong, but I'm not too hyped about Vault Breaker. And Gotcha kind of like falls a little bit in the same category. When drawn, it costs 2 less this round and deals 3 damage to a unit. This is basically a design concept that we will see repeated in the cards that we're going to be looking after this. Basically, reduction in cost the turn they are drawn, which is really interesting. I mean, a 2 mana deal 3 damage. It's like good old Black Spear, which is really neat. But the thing is, it requires you to play it that round, the round that you draw it, and forcing you to play the card for a proper or a good cost the same turn you draw it limits its utility as a reactive spell, in my opinion. And most of the time, you're going to be casting this as a 4 mana deal 3 damage, and I just don't think that's good. I think I would rather take Get Excited over this, honestly. I don't think this card is going to substitute Get Excited. Maybe I am wrong about that. I like what they're trying to do. They're trying to, this card alongside stuff like Veteran Investigator and the Insightful Investigator can lead to some, and stuff like Rummage as well. Jinx after she levels up. All these draw effects can definitely make these cards work even better. And I do like the potential synergy with Investigator as well. But outside of that shell, this card is not really going to see play. Maybe with this card right here, which we will talk about shortly, the card will be useful. And we'll have to wait and see for that. I also like, the gotcha. Somebody asked me to do that. Anyway, we're going to be looking at Veteran Investigator. This is a 2 mana 3/2. When I'm summoned, all players draw 1. Initially, my first impressions regarding this guy is it's a Smork card. What I mean by this, it's a 2-drop meant for aggro decks, because generally speaking, aggro decks in card games do not care as much about symmetrical value effects, because you're not going to be winning the value game against a deck that plays slower than you do. So this card is really neat in that regard, right? It can draw you a card early on. It helps aggro decks not run out of gas, as it gives you a solid stat line as a 2 mana 3/2, which is pretty ideal for a 2-drop, and it allows you to get more cheap value to threaten your opponent early on with. So that's the most obvious home for the Veteran Investigator, which initially somewhat disappointed me, because I love I'm not the biggest aggro player, right? And I love this card's art, the design. I'm talking about the visual design, right? I love the Yordle Veteran Chief Police Officer. So I kind of wanted to see if this card could fit more complex archetypes, I guess, is where I'm going to label it at. And I think he does have home outside of that, because something very neat is he can work pretty well in a mushroom deck with Teemo, because you're forcing your opponent to draw 1, and that's a deck in which we can benefit from this symmetrical effect. Forcing our opponent to draw Teemo and potentially playing this in the Bat Trip deck, aka Teemo with Shadow Owls, can be pretty neat, because we can Chronicler of Ruin this guy, because it's a summon effect, right? So Chronicler of Ruin can resummon this guy, and then we can get our opponent to draw more cards and draw more mushrooms and kill them that way. So I could totally see this guy in that sort of deck, and I will definitely be trying him out. I'm very excited for the potential of this guy with the Puffcat build, and it could be really neat there. So Insightful Investigator, outside of the champion herself, is probably the highlight of this Piltover and Zon reveal for me, as she has tremendous potential. She's like the biggest question mark for me. It's very hard for me to evaluate this card in a sincere way without trying her out, without physically playing her, because she has potential to give you some crazy value, right? And she could be a card that really encourages people to deck build in a very specific way. Incorporate a bunch of 2-drop cards that can work with her. She has a similar design to Pursuit of Perfection, right? And that's what I really love about the Legends of Runeterra approach. Unlike other card games in which they, Hearthstone implements the likes of, was it Jay Reno was his name? Yeah, Jay Reno, I think. The cards that require you to have, or Gwent had Shoop, cards that says your deck has to have a specific amount of cards, this and that. Or even Magic the Gathering with the recent inclusion of the Companions. Is a similar card that straight up tells you what you can and cannot add to the deck. I think that's kind of lazy. No offense, but I think that's lazy design. I like cards like this that require you to build your deck in a specific way, like Pursuit of Perfection as well, but don't set a strict, rigid limit to it. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but basically, you can design a deck with no 2-cost cards around this card, and this card will do nothing. But you can design a deck with a bunch of 2-cost cards and have this card enable you to get some crazy value out of it, right? The question is, what's the balance? Like, how many 2-drops are you running? And that's a question that the deck builder has to answer themselves. And I like that freedom that cards like these provide from a deck building perspective. Like I said, I'm not sure if I'm making much sense. This may sound like gibberish, but I understand myself, I guess. But it's really neat, and I definitely appreciate this. And I like the Insightful Investigator because I just don't know how to evaluate this card. I don't know if this card is amazing. I don't know if this card is complete garbage. I do not know. She doesn't have a good stat line. She shares the same stat line of Chronicler of Ruin, but Chronicler of Ruin has immediate effect upon entry. She does not. She's vulnerable to removal at 3 health, which is very relevant. But how big is her payoff? The fact that you're drawing a fleeting card is a way to balance this card, because otherwise it would be pretty nutty, right? So you have to play the cards. But if you have a deck comprised of 2 mana plays for the most part, then this card can just be a value train, man. And I honestly really want to try it out, basically. And then I'll reach my conclusions. That's all I can say about the Insightful Investigator. Definitely the highlight for me, though, because I will deck build a lot around this card. I can tell you that. I can guarantee you. I will be spending a lot of time with her, and don't take that out of context. Let's move on to the final one, which is Patrol English. Patrol Wardens. In case you want to see the full art, it is right here. Because I think it's pretty funny, with the fucking... She can split. I can guarantee you she can split. Patrol Wardens is perhaps the most underwhelming card. When she's drawn, she costs 1 less that round, so she becomes a 2 mana 4/3. Obviously, she's intended to synergize with the likes of the Insightful Investigator and also Veteran Investigator as well. She can become a 2 mana 4/3. I just don't think the payoff is that good. Yeah, you're getting an overstated 2-drop, right? But you have to literally play her the turn you draw her. Like, cards like Patrol Wardens and Gotcha are very limited in that regard. Like, they force you to play them as soon as you draw them, and a lot of times that beats the purpose of, like, competitive Runeterra gameplay, right? It's all in Runeterra, being forced to play something really does limit you. And even though Insightful Investigator also does that in a way, it's different because the deck built around her will be different in that sense. I mean, if I build around a deck with Insightful Investigator, I would be adding these cards, right? Like, these cards can definitely work really well with her. But outside of that, I don't think the likes of Gotcha and Patrol Wardens will see play. And I guess their viability is completely dependent on this 4-drop right here. Do I like this design? I do. Is Piltover and Zaun, it's my favorite region. Are the cards revealed my favorites? No. I'm more inclined towards... I'm more excited about Noxus and Freljord specifically from this set, from what we've seen so far. And I'm actually really intrigued about Maokai as well. I think it's going to be fun as hell to build. And even the scout mechanic is really cool. So I guess, I like these cards, right? And I'm very excited for Vi, and I'm really excited to try out Insightful Investigator. But considering it's my favorite region, I definitely like the Noxus reveal the most. And I also like the Freljord one a lot as well. But that's it for me and my initial impressions. Obviously, this is not the entire set of cards we will be getting for Piltover and Zaun from this expansion. So really excited to see what other cards we get, and if we do get some neat tools to support the likes of Insightful Investigator even more. And I just can't wait, man. I'm dying here. I'm actually dying here. Just like 9 days. 9 days for this shit. I want to be like Cartman and freeze myself in the mountains and just wait, because I can't. I'm too impatient. And I need this expansion right now. I can't wait for the new region to be revealed, which will incorporate 5 new champions. Shit's gonna be wild, yo. I can't. Oh my god. But I just gotta wait. Just gotta wait and distract myself with things and stuff, I guess. And time, will pass by. It always does. So it's gonna be hype, man. I'm super excited. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. What is your favorite champion up until now? What do you think about Vi? What do you think about these cards? Any neat ideas from a deck building perspective for Insightful Investigator? I would very much appreciate that. And that's all I gotta say. Have a solid day. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for daily Runeterra content from your favorite man-child card boy, who also has a Brazilian flag and is not Brazilian and speaks of himself in third person for whatever weird reason. And yeah, I'll see you guys around.